Okay, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني فقولي بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بعد. So as now we approach the end of Ramadan, we will obviously be facing some challenges as Ramadan makes it very easy for us to keep our worship going with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the key things that I wanted to talk about today was really about the action plan in regards to post Ramadan, because I think this is the bit that everybody starts to trip over. The first thing I want to start off is remind everybody as to why we fasted and what the real purpose was for it. We talked about the history, we talked about the background, but what was the real purpose of fasting? And I want to mention two of the verses of the Quran. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, "O you who believe, that fasting is prescribed to you as it was prescribed to those before you, that they may learn piety and righteousness." The two things there, right? Two words, so just keep that in the back of your mind. Piety and righteousness. And then once again, Allah Ta'ala then says in the Quran that fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, that you may attain, and the word is used, taqwa, God consciousness. So Allah Ta'ala has made it very clear that is the purpose why Ramadan was given to us in terms of the fasting, so that we go through this whole process of starvation, putting our bodies and our mind through such a test, and not just the physical side of it, but the spiritual side of elevating ourselves spiritually away from this dunya, the dunya that we live in, that is full of corruption, that's full of mental and physical and spiritual diseases that causes us so much ache and pain in this world. That Allah Ta'ala elevates us out so that we can give our ruh, give our spirit, and almost this almost like vitamin boost, like a nutrient boost, so that you can give us strength for the remaining of the year until next Ramadan comes. So the key three things here that I focus on is the piety, the righteousness, and the taqwa. Now, when we talk about taqwa, remember one thing when it comes to taqwa: a true believer, a true Muslim, male or female, understands what the benefit is to have and appreciates the value of being God-fearing. Because when you have this thing, taqwa, God consciousness, fear of God, love of God, respect of God, this shapes and molds everything you do in your life. So what do I mean by that? Having God-fearing or having God consciousness always helps you make the right decision. When you're a youngster, it's very hard to have this thing called taqwa in you unless you build it up, unless you learn, unless you develop knowledge, unless you're in the right circle. Because this thing called taqwa is what prevents you from committing haram. This thing called taqwa is what gives you the strength and motivation when things go really bad for you in life. Whether you go through a divorce, whether you lose your job, whether someone in your family is dying, all of these challenges, it is that taqwa, that God consciousness, that gives you the strength to overcome. Because life is such a situation, life is such a thing that it deals such a difficult blow to you. If you don't have taqwa, what happens when you face difficulties? You always end up digging up a hole that you can't get out of. You end up getting yourself into a situation that you commit more haram. You end up going to the bottle. You end up going to the drink. You end up going to all these different vices that give you these challenges. And therefore, having that taqwa, it continues the believer, you and me, if we have that belief, having that taqwa will give us the ability to continue to enhance the sense of being God-fearing. We want to build upon that because we know what we get out of it. We know it gives us that strength. Look, if you don't have a job, you are difficulties in life in terms of financials, you have issues regarding your family, you know that if you have that corner of your mind where you can go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah ta'ala is testing you, that Allah ta'ala will make things easy for you. When you think about wal usri yusra, when you think about that wherever there's difficulty, there is ease. When you have that in your mind, you always have that glimmer of hope. Can you imagine living a life without having God consciousness? God, I feel sorry for them people who don't have the belief in Allah, knowing that there is something out there that can actually overturn everything in your life. So people who actually believe and have that feeling of taqwa, they continuously grow and enhance that feeling of taqwa even after Ramadan. Because what does it do? It prevents him from him and her to committing haram. It gives the person the ability to prioritize things in life. What is more important to you? Are you going to, go for that promotion and give up all of your Jummah, your Salah, your fasting because you want to impress your boss? Are you going to prioritize all the dunya over your deen, even though you know that death is going to approach you very soon? So this helps you prioritize the things in life. It helps you make the right sacrifices in life. Do you sacrifice all the time in your life for money, for wealth, for other people, or do you do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the right reasons? It prevents you, taqwa prevents you from becoming selfish. And it also gives you a certain objective in mind that you keep focusing about what you need to do to make yourself closer to Allah. And that is obviously the things that we'll be talking about in this discussion. Now, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he warned us. He warned us about that person in the month of Ramadan that will not seek and ascertain the forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one day he sat with the Sahabi and he said, may his nose be rubbed in humiliation. May his nose be rubbed into dirt. May his nose be rubbed into the filth. And the Sahabi became so scared by what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was saying, because Muhammad was not that character that he would put people down or he would curse people. And he said, who are you talking about? And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the one who enters into the month of Ramadan, he lives out the days of Ramadan, and he even sees the end of Ramadan to the day of Eid, and not one of his sins have been forgiven by Allah. That person is cursed. And you can understand why. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it so easy for you in the month of Ramadan. He has made it so easy. Shayateen are locked away. Shayateen are locked away. The rewards have been multiplied so much, not 70, not 100, not 2,000. Allah Ta'ala says that reward is with me. That reward is so powerful for Ramadan that it could overturn every sin that you committed on the throughout your life on the day of judgment. That if you can't seek the forgiveness of Allah on this month, you are surely and definitely a loser. And we're going to talk about this a little bit. This is going to be, for you and me, we're going to go through this discussion, inshallah, for the next half an hour, going through this journey of contemplation, thinking about ourselves as we talk. We're going to think about where we are in all of this. We need to understand how Ramadan has impacted us. Now, we have gone through 30 days. I definitely am tired. I feel exhausted. Going to the masjid every night, praying, Taraweeh, the tahajjud, coming back, praying the tahajjud, reading a bit of Quran, having the lack of sleep. Why do we do this? If we didn't believe in Allah, why would we put our body through this? Now, let's try to separate our real intention to maybe the obscured intention of, are we doing it for the sake because we just happen to be Muslims in a community and everyone else is doing it and it's going to look bad if we don't do it? Let's try to separate that feeling. Let's try to understand why we really went and done this. When you go through Ramadan, these are the kind of impacts that you should expect for success. Do you feel a sense of closeness to Allah during this month of Ramadan? Allah Ta'ala gives you the opportunity where everything becomes so calm because the shayateen are out. All the other Muslims physically are not involved in any other haram or getting involved, indulging anything like this. Do you feel a sense of closeness to Allah? That sense of closeness would motivate you into a sense of action, which mean that you would pull yourself out of your homes to go for Taraweeh. You would go to pray Taraweeh. You would stand up there. I mean, I remember the other day we were standing there and I was looking at one brother. We were looking at each other because, the imam he was reciting. It was so long, it was so long. And I was feeling my hips were hurting, my feet were hurting. And I just remembered, subhanAllah, the hadith of Muhammad sallam and the hadith of the Sahabi when they talked about and described that when they used to stand up for tahajjud, which is also Taraweeh Salah, when they used to do the night prayers, they used to get tired. Their feet used to get tired. Their body used to get tired. And we still put ourselves through that. There was nothing stopping me from actually walking out and leaving that masjid. No one's going to say nothing. But I still pushed myself through it. Everyone there still pushed themselves through it. Did you have that motivation, that closeness to Allah that you did this? Some of us may have not even left our homes this Ramadan. Some of us may not have even had the desire to even go to Taraweeh because laziness overcame us. So let's try to separate this. Let's look at the realities. Because I don't want to be in a situation where I want to make Ramadan sound so cozy and cushy, like a blanket makes you feel warm. These are the realities. The advice I try to give you and the advice I try to give myself is to save you on the day of judgment. Don't kid yourself. Because Ramadan is coming to an end and you are going to be faced against all the shayateens who are going to be unleashed. The doors, the gates of Rayyan, the gates of paradise, the gate of Khor Rayyan will be closed. The acts of forgiveness will be reduced and your rewards will be normalized and not be so huge anymore. Number two, when Ramadan starts to leave you, you begin to feel sad that Ramadan is going. That's another indication that you have this connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you feel this? That when Ramadan is now coming to an end, that you actually feel sad that I've had this connection, this new, like, lost friend, like a new connection with the person that I've developed, that I feel like now I'm not going to have that. I feel like that friend was here with me for a month and now he's leaving me. Number three, that you are worried about what could possibly happen to you after Ramadan. You are conscious of the fact that Allah Ta'ala has provided you with this protection during the month of Ramadan, that you had the shayateens locked away, that Allah Ta'ala has increased your reward. You now become worried about yourself. What will happen to me after Ramadan? Am I going to fall behind? Am I going to fall in the acts of haram? Am I not going to be able to keep myself motivated? These are some of the feelings. So one, the sense of the closeness of Allah. Number two, you feel saddened about the fact that Ramadan is now coming to an end. Number three, you are worried about what could possibly happen to you now after Ramadan. Could this be the year that you fall into kufr? Is this a year that you could commit something very big in terms of displeasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that would not just impact your relationship with Allah, but impact your relationship with your family? Number four, your sense of taqwa and the piety which increases. Is your sense of taqwa increased during this month, being God consciousness? And what do I mean by that? Look, you know that Allah Ta'ala wants something good from you. You know Allah Ta'ala is expecting something from you. Are you conscious of that fact? Did you go out to do your taraweeh? Did you do the extra salah at night? Did you wake up, if suhoor was at 3:30, 3:40, did you get yourself up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get up to pray tahajjud? Even though you find it difficult to go back to sleep and you got work the next day, was it worth the sacrifice with you, for you? Is that what you're willing to do? Is that what you've done? That is your sense of taqwa, getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and being conscious. The things that you do in the day, when you get into an argument, being conscious of the fact that Allah ta'ala does not like this, I should leave this. Maybe even being tempted to doing some sort of haram, you walk away from this. All of this is a sense of taqwa. Were you going through this during the month of Ramadan and making the right choices that will please Allah? That is your taqwa. Number five, your motivation to do good things begins to thrive. So during the month of Ramadan, you want to do more good. You start giving more money. You give more sadaqah. You give more Ramadan. The man who's always there, trying to collect money for the masjid to do good, right? Do you go to him and say, I don't care how much money I've left. I'm just going to keep giving a little bit more and give a little bit more. Do you start thinking about what is left in your left pocket when you know that Allah Ta'ala is giving you more in the month of Ramadan? This should have increased. Your motivation to do good begins to thrive, increasing in your salah, increasing in good deeds, ringing up those friends, the families, the ones who are sick, making sure they're okay, saying good things to people, ringing up your parents. All of these acts, do they increase? Do their motivation, does it thrive? Number 6 or number 7, I can't remember, you're eager to please Allah, that you want to do more for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All those little things, all those little acts that will make a little difference. And also now, the most important thing is, how do you know that Ramadan has impacted you? Are you that motivated now that you have a plan for what happens after Ramadan until next Ramadan? So these are some of the indications that I wanted to share with you. And me should be thinking about this. Has Ramadan impacted you in this way? Now let's talk about if Ramadan hasn't served the purpose it should. Now stay with me, okay? I don't want to scare some of you off, but this is something that you need to be very conscious of. How do you know if Ramadan hasn't done what it needs to do for you? Number 1, you can't wait for it to be over. Right? We're on 27th night and you're like 3 days to go. Yeah, can't wait. I can't wait. Astaghfirullah. May that never come from your mouth. When Allah Ta'ala has given you a time in a month that comes only once a year, where the blessings are open, and even just 1 second of having that piety could save you on the day of judgment, why would you want this month to go? Think about your thinking process. Think about the motivation of why you want it to be over. Number 2, you cannot wait to go back to committing haram, even though you may not even think that it's haram. We talked about there are those people that when Ramadan comes, they suspend their sins. They suspend their haram act. They tell their girlfriends and their boyfriends, listen, love, we ain't going to talk during the month of Ramadan. I'll catch up with you in 30 days. Don't bother me. The person who is selling alcohol in his shop says, I will not take profit from this alcohol. If I'm going to sell it, I'm going to give it for sadaqah. This is haram. This doesn't count. It's no good. He's going to go back to it. So all of these activities, the guys and the girls are thinking about what they're going to get involved with. You can't wait to go back to haram. My girl is waiting. My boyfriend is waiting. My drugs are waiting. I can't wait to have a drink. I can't wait to go back to the clubs. I can't wait to have these socialize. I can't wait to do all of these activities. These are things that you start to thrive for. Number 3, your primary focus. Now after Ramadan, you think, I've had my spiritual month. I can't wait to get back to my dunya. I can't wait to start thinking about what my business plans are going to be, what I'm going to do, my promotion, my work, my college, my universities. I can't wait to get back. Basically, you start to put everything ahead before Islam. That should never be the case. There's something wrong with your way you're thinking. Your primary focus in life should always be Islam, and you can carry on doing these things. But when you separate these two and you start thinking, I can do this and I can leave Islam to the side, you have a problem the way you think about life. You have a problem the way you think about your relationship with Allah, and that needs to be corrected. Number 5, you don't have a plan for your deen, for your Islam, until the following Ramadan. So as far as you're concerned, Ramadan is over. I have no issues. I have no plans. I have no desire for anything else. I will think about my spirituality when the next Ramadan comes. Number 6, you forget, and this is probably the one which really hurts me the most, right? You forget about Allah on the day of Eid. And all you are focused about is glamour. How good you look, meeting up with your friends. You go out with your friends. So you meet up with your families during the daytime, and in the evenings, you then try to meet up with your friends to get up to no good. We forget Allah on this day. That one always resonates with me, because I look around, I look at people, and I look at our Muslim sisters. Some of them, they forget about their piety. They used to wear their hijab and their scarf, and they used to be very humble, and they start whatever, and the Eid day comes, and bang, the Christmas tree comes on. They start putting it on. The boys start getting out of their Hugo Boss jumpers and clothes, getting ready to go out for the evening. All of this, start happening. You don't, and do you ever think that you have done it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We forget Allah. It's the most hurtful thing that you literally box up Muhammad sallam and Allah ta'ala away to the cover, say, thank you very much. We've had you for a month, no more. Now it's my time. And number 7, your intention says it all. Only you know what your intention is. Only you really know whether you really wanted something from Ramadan or whether you're happy that it's done and over with. So what are your challenges after Ramadan? Well, let's be absolutely clear for you. So let me make this statement clear. For those people who actually enter Ramadan thinking that they were just going to suspend their sin and go back to it, this is not for you. You might as well just jog on from this point onwards. You have other issues you need to deal with. There are serious issues that you need to deal with. This is the one that Allah Ta'ala, Muhammad was talking about. Let your nose be rubbed in it if this is your attitude, because you would not have sought the forgiveness of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And it's time for you. You still have time before your death comes upon you, that you still have time to reflect upon why you did not achieve this. So what are these challenges after Ramadan that you and me are now going to face? Hopefully, inshallah, we've had a great Ramadan. We've really, really gone for it. We've done our best. But it doesn't matter whether we've done more or less action. It's the fact that we get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what are those challenges? Number 1, remember there are the spiritual things, the things that happen in the universe that you and me are not aware of. Shayateen will be released. On the day of Eid, Shayateen will be released, and they will pick up from where they left off. We know from the hadith of Muhammad sallam that there are certain shayateens that have been assigned to you when you have been created. They know exactly everything about you. They know your habits. They know the way you breathe, the way that they know the way you talk. They know everything about you, and they will pick up from where they left off before Ramadan, and they're going to be all over you. Number 2, the gates of heaven, specifically the gates of Rayyan, which is the gate that opens up and allows those people who are fasting for the sake of Allah, for piety, for righteousness, and for taqwa, only they will enter. That door becomes closed. And therefore, forgiveness becomes reduced. The reward which is multiplied and which is only held with Allah now is normalized. Your reward is normalized. We have to work twice as hard to achieve the satisfaction and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The angels which are with us now, and we give our salam to those angels, the angels that are with us in the last 10 days, in one of those nights of Laylatul Qadr, eventually they will all leave. These angels are here. They have scared off all the shayateen. They are writing down all our good deeds. They are giving salam to us. They are blessing us, and they are going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, telling Allah that what we have done. And they are here to also execute the plans of the Qadr of what's going to happen next year. Whether you'll pass your exam, you'll fail your exam, whether you'll get that job, you won't get that job, you'll lose your house, you lose your family, you lose your kid, you get cancer, you will die. All of these have been instructed with the angels, and they will be gone, meaning that the execution has already kicked off, and they would have released, and you would have the opportunity in these last 10 nights to have changed that with sincerity. That's the condition, that you stand in prayer with sincerity and with taqwa for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not because your mates are going, not because your dad has told you to do it, or your mom has, or because of what the community will think if you don't do it. Hey, some of us don't even care. Some of us haven't even bothered. Your friends will come to encourage you. Be aware. When the Quran talks about shayateen, they don't talk about just the jinns. They talk about the jinn and the ins, the humans and the jinns themselves. Shayateens can be in the form of humans. I will ask every one of us, even me, right, being 48 years old, and some of us, even and the youngsters, they can come to us. The people will come to us, the kuffar and the Muslims will come to you, and they will motivate you away from the deen. Be aware of them. This is the time to dump them fast. After Ramadan, your laziness will increase. So all the momentum that you picked up reading the Quran and so forth, this would increase. right? And you need to learn how to stomp it out very quickly. Your desire for the dunya will overcome you. Your motivation to learn will be tested. Your motivation to read Quran and learn will be tested. You will not have time for this. And your mindset about Ramadan will now become obscured. What you got from it, the feeling, the love, the motivation, the desire to do more over the period of time will become obscured and will become a distant memory. And you will begin to miss that what you left behind. So these are the things, the challenges that we are going to face after the month of Ramadan. So now I'm going to get down to the action plan, what you can do. There's no real hard and fast rules. These are some things that I think about every day. You know what they always say, right? Is when you got on a diet and you're doing really, really well, don't give up. Yeah, keep it going. First of all, start with Eid. Yeah, don't do a Houston and crash straight back down again. Ramadan is over. Don't ruin it, yeah, by doing the most despicable acts in Ramadan. Sorry, on the day of Eid. Eid is the day where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us to celebrate what you and me have done for Ramadan, what you and me have done in Ramadan. This is the day Allah ta'ala says to us, you have sacrificed your body, you have sacrificed your mind, you have sacrificed your spirit for me. And this is the day I want you to celebrate for yourself, for what you have done for me. So we should always remember, we keep Allah in mind. There is nothing worse than to start your improvement, to start your plan of action by doing a crash and burn. Don't ruin it by doing the things that Allah Ta'ala dislikes. Don't start planning your DOS day, your glamour, yeah, how you're going to look on that day, what clothes you're going to wear, how you're going to compete with each other, all these things. These are the things of shayateen. We are here so that we can please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remind yourself of the story of Ibrahim Islam and the sacrifices that he had made for us, for Muhammad sallam, for us to be here, for us to be the nation that is blessed over all other nations because we are Muslims. A time for remembering those. This Eid is also a time for remembering those who are less fortunate than us. You know, Ramadan, they play on Islam channel and all the other channels, they show the people that are in poverty. Yeah, you know, they do it for the charity's sake, but it's very real. While you go out there and you celebrate and you glutton yourself with food and so forth, they're still starving. They're still dying. The Rohingya Muslims, they're still suffering. The Muslims in China, those Muslim women are still being raped while you are celebrating it. On the day of Eid, they are still being raped. They are still being tortured. They are still going through starvation. Their Ramadan doesn't end. So on the day of Eid, it is not the time to forget them. So we should be in a position, start now and start thinking about them. Change your mindset about Eid. So start with have a good start, yeah, for your plan, your action plan after Ramadan. Start with Eid. Understand why we do it. Go to the masjid. I always remember we used to go to the mosque for Eid and we would never return back for Zuhr or Asr because now we're too busy with our families. We should be going back to the masjid and praying there, thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has taken all our good deeds and we beg Allah to use those good deeds that we have done for Him on the Day of Judgment. Continue all the good acts, okay? Continue to do what you're doing as if Ramadan is still there. Right? It's still around you, it's still here. Create the mindset, the trigger points. Think about all the things in Ramadan that you enjoyed. Think about the evenings and that relationship you had with Allah when the night fell on you, that this is the night where Allah Ta'ala would descend the angels. Remember these things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will still give you these favors. So try to create these trigger points in your mind. Try to create that connection between yourself and Allah, between you and Ramadan, and try to take that further out. So even though Taraweeh is now finished, remember how good it felt standing there and asking Allah for forgiveness, making that one-to-one connection. Now you can do that in your normal salah, your 5 times a day prayer. You understand? So keep this going. And also probably the most important thing, the dua. You know, in Ramadan, we seem to do a very different dua in Ramadan outside of Ramadan. In Ramadan, we have this normal conversation with Allah. We sit there and we ask Allah, we complain to Him of our weaknesses, we complain to Him about our problems, we complain to Him about why we are unable to do things, and we ask for His help. Allah loves this. He loves that you come to Him for help and not calling Abdul or Joe about all your problems and issues. So keep that connection going. Keep that connection going with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If after Ramadan you fall into haram, brothers and sisters, I remind you, when you fall into wrong, go back to Allah immediately. Shayateen will tell you, don't go back to Allah because you are filthy, you are dirty, you are napak, you are disgusting because of what you have done. You should not go back to Allah. But Allah says, when you commit haram, you should come back to me immediately, asking me for help and asking me for forgiveness. So we should do this. Set up reminders in your head of what you learned and what it felt like during that Ramadan. The feeling of insecurity and the need of Allah. What do you desire to do and learn after Ramadan? In this month of Ramadan, you would have found something new about yourself, a desire. You would have found that I wanted to learn, I wanted to perfect my salah, I wanted to do more for the community, I want to do more for the charity. I saw those people that were suffering. If you found that little thing that's going to motivate you, then pick up on that thing and desire and create that desire within yourself to learn about it. I've already had a discussion with some of the brothers about what do you want to now do after Ramadan. You're going to go, some of you are doctors, some of you are professionals, some of you are going to go back to uni, and some of you are going to go back to your colleges. That's not good enough. That's the dunya. That is what Allah Ta'ala has given to you as a provision so that you can do what? Why were you created? What was your purpose here? Your purpose here was what Muhammad ﷺ came down for. Muhammad ﷺ came down here to spread the deen, to spread that message to everyone. We're going to be accountable for every single person. So our duty is to do that, is to basically spread the message of Allah, to keep Him happy, to do that dawah. Your job is a provision that Allah Ta'ala has given you so that you can earn, so that you can feed your family, so you can go out to do your dawah. But you seem to have forgotten this. You seem to think that you go out there and you earn money to make more money, so you can get your cars, you get your houses, you can do this, you can do, and not do anything back for the community. That is not why you are there for. That is not what Allah Ta'ala has given you. So you need to understand that even though Allah Ta'ala has given you all these provisions, what is your main focus? Some scholars even say to live in a darul kufr, in a land of kufr, for no reason other than the purpose of doing your dawah. Is haram to even be here. You should be in darul Islam. You should be in the land of Islam. That's what your purpose is. Otherwise, what are you doing here? You have non-Muslims all around you. You have Muslims who come here and they've even lost their deen. Now it's our job to remind them. So you need to keep your focus about what I should be doing. So your provisions are given you, but your focus should be your dawah. So therefore, pick up on something that you want to learn. With that learning, then becomes what? Implementing that. I will remind all of you, please pick up something. Do something in your community, whether it's sports activities to bring the kids off the streets, whether it's doing some sort of dawah, whether it's doing social media dawah, whether it's participating in the masjid, whether it's going and washing bodies for ghusl, doing something in your community. Every act of doing something in your community is dawah. It is a stepping stone to resolving the Muslim problems around the world. Muslims are dying and suffering. What are you doing to help them? You have to do what you can here. You have to do what you can here by carrying that dawah. And that dawah can be carried by your mouth. It can be carried by your hand. It can be carried by your wealth. It can be carried by your actions. That is what you're there to do. So try to pick on something and keep doing it continuously, which is the next point. Allah loves small and continuous acts of good rather than trying to be a hero and do everything in one shot and then failing afterwards. Continue doing things in bite sizes. So if you were reading Quran, I would tell you now, brothers and sisters, don't try to start reading one juz every day because you won't keep that up. There's many hadiths about this where Sahabi used to pray all night, fast all day, continuously keep fasting, even outside Ramadan. They used to read the Quran continuously. They used to stay up to tahajjud. And Muslims used to say to them, can you keep this going in 20 years' time and 30 years' time? No. Then do what you're capable of doing continuously until the day you die. So if you can read Quran for 5 minutes a day, then do it for 5 minutes. If it's not 5 minutes a day and 5 minutes a week, then do it for 5 minutes a week, but do it continuous. Pick up a book, learn something new. Pick up the book of Sirah, learn the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and read it. Because when you read it, inshallah, it will change the way you think about certain things. Dawah in your community is imperative. Now is the time that after the month of Ramadan, you need all the protection you can. Muhammad ﷺ has always taught us that when you do acts of good deed, this is a protection from shaitan, and it's a protection. And when I mean shaitan, I mean the jinns and I mean the human beings. Have you ever noticed that when you come away from kufr, if you come away from the bad surroundings, that when you do try to do good deeds, that actually Allah Ta'ala keeps away all the bad people from you. He keeps all the bad influences away from you. These are the things that are imperative. Doing the dawah, doing the community work, to keep in mind of the bigger objective in mind. Our objective here as Muslims is to spread the message like Muhammad ﷺ had done until the day he died. That is our job. And everything else that we have, if Allah Ta'ala gives you a promotion, you become a managing director, or you get a good job, this is a provision that Allah Ta'ala has given you so that you can carry on the good work. So we should continue to do all of this. So the action plan really is many different things. There is no hard and fast rule, but there are things that you can do. There are two things. There are the preventative acts that will draw you back into haram, and then there are those positive acts that they can draw you into doing the things which are good. So these are the things that I personally myself start to do. In the month of Ramadan, after I developed this different relationship with Allah, and I keep growing that relationship continuously. I don't like it when Ramadan goes because I love that feeling of Ramadan. But now I know that down the month of Ramadan, I have to increase those things which are weak in me, my sabr, my taqwa, my iman, all of my thankfulness. All of these things I have to develop on. Now, if I want this from Allah and ask for this, now I have to learn about them. So Allah Ta'ala says, I will give this to you when you go out and you start learning about them. So I have to read Quran. I have to read specific verses regarding these subjects and issues. I will read the seerah to see how Muhammad ﷺ handled these issues. And then I will go and I will teach these. These are the ways that you start to develop on yourself. Remember that the next whatever 10, 11, 12 months until the next month of Ramadan comes for you, remind yourself, this could be the last Ramadan. You may not get the opportunity now. This could be the last Ramadan. And so I prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He's given you the opportunity and that you really have sought Allah Ta'ala during this month of Ramadan, and you've got that taqwa, you've got that piety, and you have got that thankfulness and that sabr, and that you have now become a better person. If you have not, and you were of the descriptions that I described of the people who really lost their way, now you still have a chance to really fix those issues. You really have those. For some of us, look, many of the Ramadans haven't been very good in our early days, but that one Ramadan has to be good at some point. Now you have an opportunity to fix yourself. Now, the first thing is to think what you need to do. What do you need to do to make yourself better? It isn't lost. Nothing is over until the day you die. So now you have to start thinking about how you can improve yourself and look for those opportunities to improve. And the first thing you do is reflection. What did I do wrong in Ramadan? What could I have done better in Ramadan? And what did I fall short of? And you need to now go and fix those. On that note, Jazakallah khair, I'm not going to go further. I'm going to open it up to any Q&A and discussions. I want people to ask me any practical questions or points that we can have a real comment, because these are real serious issues that I think that all our children and even some of us as adults are going to face. And I say this with a sincere heart because I do think to myself, every day that goes by, every month that goes by, and every year goes by is one day, 1 month, and 1 year closer to our death. Any one of us who are here could be the next one going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we always want to be in a situation where we can help each other before we get to that point. So Jazakallah khair, may Allah ta'ala accept your Ramadan and make it fruitful for you, inshallah. I'll open it up to any Q&As.
Very informative. I think it's nice just to, it's good to have it put into perspective about what the reality is and not sugarcoat it, which I think is something that can happen. You have that feel-good factor during Ramadan. But, like you said, I think as Muslims, we should always be looking not to just develop ourselves, but to grow as Muslims, be better Muslims. And sometimes, you need to hear it like that, like the reality is what it is, to then hopefully bring about a change, or the change that you have made, to continue it, so you don't come out of Ramadan and think, like you say, and just kind of pointed at me, it's like that there were times in the past where on the last day of Ramadan, you wouldn't even get up for Fajr because you're getting excited because it's Eid the next day, right? And you're making time for that, and that's how quickly you turn it. It can be turned off if you don't keep that kind of focus. So I think, inshallah, I pray that Allah it guides us rightly, and we kind of surround ourselves with people who are like-minded like us, who want to help us and steer us in the right direction when we tend to waver, and us help them in exactly the same way. So it's not a journey that you're on your own, I think. So it's worth kind of pointing that out as well. There's people around who are there to help. But as a Muslim, you growing, that's your own personal journey.
So somebody's posted out here, Miss Matchley. She said, how would you keep your morale up after Ramadan? Because for some people, it would die out quite quickly. There are some facts about this, right? There is no doubt, okay? Even Muhammad Sallam was the best of all of us, best of all mankind. He was best in his taqwa, he was best in his piety, best in his kindness, best in everything. But you think about Ramadan and how even he took it up one level. So he can take it up a level. And people will ask the question, well, why doesn't he keep it up that level? Because as a human being, it's hard to push yourself to such a degree, right? So you push yourself to that level and you come back down a little bit. Now, for all of us, Ramadan, Allah Ta'ala, that's why we say that Allah Ta'ala made it easy. Look, everything is locked away from you. And Allah Ta'ala is saying, listen, Insan, it's just you and me. I'm willing to help you if you're willing to help yourself. So Ramadan naturally is a high, and anything after Ramadan will become a low. That's natural. But the point here is, and I'll talk to the guys about who go training. If you've never pushed 200 kilos and you work your way to do that, there'll be 1 month you will get to that level and you will be stronger and look better. Even if you're cutting weight or you're dieting, there'll come a point in the whole year you will look the best. But you realize how much you sacrifice to get there. But then after that, it becomes hard to keep it up continuously. You'll drop a little bit. So what happens is every year you strive to beat your best target. That's basically what Ramadan is. Allah Ta'ala is saying is push yourself to a level where you've never pushed before. So if you never read Quran ever before Ramadan, and now you're reading Quran a lot, now after Ramadan, you start to read Quran maybe 5 minutes every week. Because before you weren't doing nothing. So that is how so you will come out the other side doing something better than what you haven't done before. That is another sign of a good sign that Allah Ta'ala has given you, that your Ramadan has become effective. That what you haven't done before, you are now starting to do. It doesn't have to be a lot. It has to be small amounts. Even that is continuous. So to keep your morale going, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it always clear. I will come to you the moment you decide to come to me. Yes? I'm not coming running to you. You have to make the move. I am the Lord of the universe. I don't need you. I can throw every insan into hellfire and there will be not a sweat off me. There's no issue from that perspective. You're the one that needs me. But I have a deal here. If you come to me a handspan, I'll come to you arm's length. If you come to me just a little bit for help, I will make it very easy for you. The problem we have, and for Misbah, I might explain, the problem we have is that we don't try to create that connection with Allah. We don't. We try to do all these things, but we forget why we're doing it. We have to keep going back to Allah. We have to keep complaining to Allah. Muhammad always complained to Allah that I don't have this, I feel challenged. The people aren't converting, people aren't listening. He would always complain to Allah about yourself, and your morale will develop. So the first step is to everyone. There is no action, there is no dumbbells, there are no weights, there is no diet that you can do to make yourself come closer to Allah. The first point of getting closer to Allah is basically making that connection with Him and raising your hand up for dua, because that is what Muhammad used to do. If you keep that connection with Allah, your morale will remain. Then the next step after that is now you work on that by building up on those issues that you find weak. I have things that I need to work on, and I'll be working on a Ramadan plan, a post-Ramadan plan to build on those issues. That's how you keep your morale up. That's how you keep, but your morale will not be the same level as Ramadan. No, it won't be. But you have to keep striving to do that. The idea is that you look back behind you and you think, I wasn't that person that I was before Ramadan. Now I'm someone different.
Assalamu alaikum, Azim uncle. May I ask actually a question, if that's okay?
Yes, please.
I think because it's still the last 10 days, so Laylatul Qadr would be in one of these 10 days. I think it was, I think they were saying that, I think it must have been basically, I think you can read like 2 extra rakats aside from your 5 daily prayers. I think that's true, but I was saying that because I have a lot of anxiety, so when somebody feels anxiety, can they pray an extra 2 rakats, or what can they do to instantly like feel closer to Allah Ta'ala so they can feel more ease?
Shayan, 2 things, right? Yeah. So number 1 is that you can pray as many sunnah. The more you pray outside of your 5, the more you pray, the more reward you get. Okay, so you can keep praying and you can keep praying. The thing about the salah is that the salah is it's like those movies, right? Salah is a portal between you and Allah. I don't think we've got that yet. A lot of people don't understand this, right? This, when they keep saying, you get this khushu. They keep talking about this. The khushu is actually when it's like asking a connection from Allah. The moment the connection is made, the doors are open between you and Him. Those doors in those 2 dimensions are open, and khushu'ah begins to happen. If you ever pray salah and you don't get the khushu'ah, it means that you didn't open that portal. You didn't open that connection with Allah. So this is very important. So that's why we have to do this extra salah, and we do this. And Laylatul Qadr is immensely important, because the way you do that, how did Allah Ta'ala say you find Laylatul Qadr? He says you pray. You do the tahajjud, because that's the portal you open up between Him and yourself. That's what people don't think about. When you do the tahajjud in Laylatul Qadr, you're opening up the portal which Allah Ta'ala is specifically saying, I'm going to make that connection with you. And whatever you ask is going to be accepted. The other point, Shahan, when it comes to anxiety, and if you suffer from anxiety and any levels of stress, remember one thing. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you something which is a challenge for you as an insan. That in itself is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you continuously to seek refuge in Allah, that you keep reaching out to Him, you keep doing all the good things, but you still have these weaknesses, like you still have this anxiety or this depression or stress. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you this because it is a form of barakah. He is rewarding you, He is blessing you, and He is removing your sins. Some people don't have that. So for example, people, who have cancer, right? People who have cancer, who have a disease, they think Allah Ta'ala is torturing me, punishing me. Not necessarily. This is a way Allah Ta'ala is cleansing your soul, your spirit, cleansing your sins. because of the fact that you are reaching out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Muhammad sallam suffered from anxiety. He suffered from depression because of the work that he had done as a human being. He faced all these challenges, and he would go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pleading to Allah to help him. In the Battle of Badr, I remembered, he was so scared because 316 mu'min believers were facing 1,000 warriors of the Quraysh. And even he knew, in a rational calculation, 316 normal people who had no weapons, nothing, who are not even fighters, how are they going to beat 1,000 warriors who are armed to the, to the teeth? And from that perspective, how are they going to win? So he said to Allah, Ya Allah, if these people die, then who will be left to preach? Who will be left to, who will be there to send your message out to everybody else? Please give us the victory. And he would be overwhelmed with anxiety. And that's why we know that Abu Bakr Siddiq he would see Muhammad sallam raising his arms up, crying, his beard would be wet of tears, his cloak and Abu Bakr would come behind him, pick up his cloak, wrap it around him and hug him from behind. And he would say to Muhammad sallam, he said, enough, that's enough. Your Lord has heard you. So you as a Muslim, you have to believe that Allah has accepted your Ramadan, has accepted your du'as, and just wait for it, because Muhammad sallam has said your du'as are accepted in 3 ways. Number 1, whatever du'a a mu'min believes will be accepted. Number 1, Allah Ta'ala will either offer you and give you that du'a that you've asked for, he will give it to you in this dunya. If he doesn't, Allah Ta'ala will save that du'a and he will replace it with an event or an issue that was going to cause you problems. He will replace it with this. So he will remove that torment that was going to happen, that turmoil in your life, or that trouble that was going to happen. And if that doesn't happen, then Allah Ta'ala will use it on the day of judgment to save you from the hellfire. All du'as will be accepted. But one of the beliefs of a mu'min, a believer, is that you must always believe that Allah Ta'ala has accepted your fast. You have to believe it if you went in there with pure sincerity. Is there any other questions?
Thank you, Uncle.
Barakallah feek. Any other questions from anyone else? If not, then I'm going to leave these thoughts with you. Please do ponder upon this. Laylatul Qadr may still be upon us. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the strongest hadiths, says it's the 27th night. Tonight, the 27th night. You know, I'm just going to leave off with this, yeah? For those who feel that they've lost out or missed out on Ramadan, haven't really gained what they should have gained. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam even said that even if you felt like you missed out the first 10 days and the second 10 days, try to make it up on Laylatul Qadr.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah. Tonight is the night you could have that, right? Tonight is the night you can have that. Find Laylatul Qadr. If Allah Ta'ala has still going to bless, right? It may past us, it may still be here. We don't know. Go seek it and ask Allah for help.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu.
Assalamu alaikum. How you doing? Be okay, brothers? Just a quick question. So I run football for kids and youth who are 15 plus. Some of these boys, they're coming into football. It's an hour session, hour and a half session. They play football. And after the match finishes, they're hanging around the pitch. I know what they're waiting for and who they're waiting for. They're waiting for a pickup of drugs to go and smoke some drugs after a game of footy. Now, I've not directly approached them and challenged them and said, look, you guys shouldn't be doing this, because it can come across as I'm preaching to them and it might be the wrong approach. But I was just wondering, out of your, obviously, your knowledge, experience, how do you tackle these scenarios where you know someone's going to go and do something, but you don't want them to do it? And you know what, it could also expand from just those 2 boys who are waiting to 5 boys to 10 boys waiting for the same, the same shot. They're waiting for the same drug dealer to come and give them drugs. So how would you approach a situation like that and try and resolve that situation?
Okay, Jazakallah khair. That's a phenomenal question, right? You know what, for a lot of years, and I'll be honest with you, for many years, I was very conscious about how I gave dawah to people. Exactly like you thought, like if I go out there, I'm going to sound like I'm preachy, they're going to switch off, they're going to turn off, it's not going to come across good. So I would prevent myself from saying anything, and I would think about another way, another style of doing it. You know, I will be honest with you, bro. When I read the seerah, I learned a great lesson. Muhammad Sallam, in the first 13 years when he was in Makkah, struggled to give dawah. Subhanallah, struggled. Understand one thing, Muhammad Sallam, in 13 years, I mean, 13 years is a very long time of dedication, 100% of your life giving dawah to a group of people who were continuously involved in jahliyyah. And we're not talking about easy pickup of drugs or drink and this. We're talking about to the point it was running through their veins, this jahliyyah, so badly that any sign of goodness, they wanted to eradicate it, i.e. Muhammad Sallam. That's what Muhammad Sallam was faced up against. 13 years, he converted 82, 83 people. He made a dua to Allah, he made a complaint. And he said to Allah, I spent 13 years struggling, giving dawah to these people, and he was from them. He wasn't like an alien or a guy that came from another nation or another people. He was from them. And they loved him as well, right? They knew him as a character, okay? They didn't love him for his religion. And he complained to Allah, and Allah said to Muhammad sallam, and this is what I remember, he said to Muhammad sallam, he said, Ya Rasul, he said, I gave you the power, right, to express from your mouth the words of Allah. Who said I ever gave you the power to change the hearts of people? Who told you that I gave you that power? I never gave you that power. That power belongs to me and only me. Your job is to spread the message. Who turns and converts? Who sees the light and who sees the darkness? That's purely my decision. To the extent that Musab bin Umair, when he went to Medina, Musab bin Umair, in the matter of 2 to 3 years, converted over 300 people to Islam, more than what Muhammad SAW managed to do in 13 years. And Musab bin Umair was not even a prophet. What lesson do we learn from this? I'll tell you the lesson I learned from this. There is no means and styles in the way you approach anyone. Your job is to spread the message of Allah. When the words come out of your mouth, how they enter in someone's head is what Allah decides. Sometimes the things that you say will be so sweet and so impacting, it will drive itself through their mind into their hearts. And you could learn the best method of giving dawah, the best example that you could be the most greatest influencer in the world, and you could go to a normal person and it will not even touch their brain cell. So the lesson we learned from this, my brother, it's got nothing to do with what you're doing, the way you do it. You carry on. If you see them doing this, you go and you remind them in the best way that you can, with the heart that you have, of why they do what they're doing is wrong. And it is up to Allah. You leave it to Allah whether Allah wants them. And I'll tell you stories. I can tell you stories that people like yourself who've gone out there and they're given dawah and they looked at these kids and the kids have turned around and they just told you to go do one. The same kids, when they've grown up 20 years later, they've come back and they said, you know what? It was that one guy who came to me 20 years ago who said something and it did touch my heart. I never said it, but that was the thing that changed me. That was the thing that triggered me through a series of events in my life over years that converted me. So there is no style. Your job is to go out there and just give the dawah. Doesn't matter how you think you look. It's not your job to worry about how you look in front of people. Your job is what Allah Ta'ala has given you. Spread the deen in the best way that you can with the very little knowledge or the amount of knowledge or the huge amount of knowledge that you have. It doesn't matter. Your job is to spread that message, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you that reward, because that's what you're seeking, is that reward. Your worry is not them. Allah Ta'ala will take care of them in the way that He feels that is best. I hope that's answered your question.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair, bro. That's very good reply. Thank you very much.
Is there any other question from anyone else? Any comments? If not, you're probably feeling as tired as I am. Probably everyone probably needs a nap before Laylatul Qadr. So inshallah, Jazakallah khair for your time. And this is probably the last of our classes for Ramadan. May Allah Ta'ala reward all those brothers that made the effort to join and listen. Whatever we've done, however we've done it, you know, may Allah Ta'ala make it easy for you and really make you grow in your deen and be those who will enter the Jannah Firdaus and be of those of the best of the nation of Muhammad Sallam. So Jazakallah khair, inshallah, and I will see you guys in a few weeks on the Seerah classes, inshallah. So Jazakallah khair, make dua for all of us.
Inshallah.